Welcome to the first episode of MTM Update. This will be an English-speaking online format, and in this format we will discuss with international experts international media topics. In the first episode we'll focus on the US elections and the role media plays in them. I'm really happy to welcome Mrs. Bumiller. She's Washington Bureau Chief of the New York Times. Welcome, Mrs. Bumiller.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I want to start with your last coup. The New York Times just recently published an article about the finances of Donald Trump, in which it comes to light that he only paid $750 within the last 16 years. How did it? It was a message which was published in Germany news, in the TV news late night shows. So, how was it received in Washington and in the US?
Well, I can tell you how it was. It's hard for me to tell how it was received in the US. I mean, I know there was an enormous reaction, certainly from the Democrats, from the opposition party, who were outraged that the president, who, on income of, hundreds of millions of dollars, paid less than a nurse pays in taxes, less than a firefighter pays in taxes. It was the number was a really it certainly was big news here. Whether or not it affects the election, that's another story. A lot of the president's very enthusiastic supporters, his base supporters, nothing seems to budge them off their position that they really like the president. And it seems like we just don't know how it's going to affect people. We think perhaps people who aren't so sure about Donald Trump, the few Americans left who don't have a strong opinion about the race, it might affect them. The average firefighter, the average nurse pays a lot more than $750 in taxes. So we just don't know. But we'll know more probably in a couple of days when there's some polls.
Yes, because it's something new. I mean, it's not the first article which brings things about Donald Trump to light, which doesn't make him look good. The New York Times were one of the first newspapers who also investigated the connection between Donald Trump and the Russians and the Russian influences in the last election. For the election now, how did it change things?
Not a great deal. What's striking is that if you look at where Joe Biden was in July of 2019, before the impeachment, before the Russia investigation came to before the Democrats impeached Donald Trump, he's about the same place he was. I mean, he's about 9 or 10 points up in the national poll. So there's very little that actually has changed the fundamentals of this race. The country is very divided, and people have made up their minds, and there's very little that is going to change people's minds right now who've already decided. So that's just the reality of the race. It's what's so striking is that Donald Trump was impeached in early this year, and it's not even discussed. He's one of the third American president to be impeached, so it's remarkable.
Donald Trump's reaction to the article yesterday, and usually if there are things he doesn't want to hear, it's just fake news. Fake news actually is not a new term, but it really came into the speech in Germany and Europe with the presidency of Donald Trump. Because he's the one who says that the mainstream media, they are just fake news. They produce fake news. And from the European point of view, it's just the other way around. Donald Trump, thinking of his inauguration, for example, the first day of him as president, you can see that there are few people at his inauguration, and he's just saying fake news. How do you cope with that as a journalist, and how did it change your work?
Well, when Donald Trump says fake news, it usually just means the news he doesn't like. And I would like to note that he has not challenged the specifics of the tax story. He has not said, I didn't pay $750 in taxes. They have not challenged any specifics. They've only just given this blanket, it's fake news. And interestingly, yesterday, after saying first that it was fake news, then he said, well, the information was illegally obtained. That implies that the information is correct. So, and by the way, it wasn't illegally obtained. It was obtained from people who had legal access to the information. So he's been leveling the fake news charge at the media for close to 4 years now. It has had, I have to say, a corrosive effect. I mean, I do think that his supporters tend to not believe what they see in the New York Times or on CNN or on MSNBC. They tend to believe what they see on Fox News, which is a network that's very pro Donald Trump. So that is a problem. It has had a corrosive effect on how we do our jobs. I mean, it hasn't affected how we do our jobs. It has affected whether or not people believe what's in the New York Times. I can tell you that, I would say the majority of Americans, Donald Trump has had a minority of support, has not had the support of a majority of Americans since he took office, which is another historic first. He's never broken above 50%. The majority of the country does not support Donald Trump. 60% of the country does not support Donald Trump. It's because of the intricacies of our electoral college and the way we elect presidents that he's president. But so I would say it has had a corrosive effect, but it hasn't affected how we go about our jobs. We are still, my job is to hold power to account, to get at the truth as best we can. And so we've done a lot of things. We have a very, very, like tonight for the debate, we're going to have we have a very, very robust fact-checking operation involving dozens of reporters, 5 or 6 different editors, so it's changed the way we point out very quickly when we write stories that Donald Trump falsely said. Donald Trump said with no evidence, we don't let him repeat these falsehoods in print.
How does it feel to be fact-checker of a U.S. president?
It's fine. I mean, our job is not to take one side or another. Our job is to tell our readers as best we can what the actual facts are. And if you look at Donald Trump's rallies in the last couple of weeks, the majority of what he says is not true. I mean, he has a standard rally sort of talk that he gives. I mean, he flies around and does speeches at airport hangars around the country because of the virus. He can't do rallies inside. And it's kind of, he says the same thing over and over again, and there's so much falsehood in what he says. So we make sure our readers know what he's saying is false.
You said that the viewers of Fox News, for example, they believe Fox News, and Fox News is maybe not all the time that correct as the New York Times is. What do you do to try to reach the people who believe?
This is the question I've been asked every day not every day, but many times over the past 4 years. What can the New York Times do to convince those people or reach those people? We can't, our job is not to, our job is just to produce superb journalism as best we can. Our job is to produce the kind of investigative journalism that you've seen the last couple of days. Our job is to cover Trump, aggressively and honestly. And, and again, all we can do as our journalism is produce the best journalism possible. And we've done that, for almost 4 years now with Donald Trump. I mean, we've increased the size of the staff. We've added a big fact-checking operation. We are pretty much 24/7 in the Washington Bureau, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So those are things that we can do to cover Donald Trump. We can't, and we hope that, I can tell you one thing, that then the last couple of days with these investigative stories on his taxes, we've had a huge surge in readership, and apparently a surge in subscriptions as well. That's what I've been told. So that's what we do.
We talked about Donald Trump now for 10 minutes. I think it's enough. The president candidate of the Democrats, Joe Biden, his campaign pretty much consists of not being Donald Trump right now. How do you cope with that? Because a journalist, you want to bring to the people what the new ways are going to be. And how do you regard the U.S. elections right now concerning content, actually?
Well, I would respectfully disagree that it's not the Joe Biden's campaign is not just I'm not Donald Trump. I think there's a number of issues that he's talking about. He doesn't get the attention of Donald Trump because Donald Trump is the president and he's Donald Trump. But I think they're going to come up certainly in the debates. I mean, one of the biggest issues he talks about is health care. In this country, we do not have universal health care. We have a complicated system. Most people get their health care through their employers. Those who don't have 20 million people who don't get health care through their employers now have it through the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare, that was pushed through by former President Obama and Joe Biden. And I think that is a big issue that if you look, that Joe Biden is talking about. And especially since the position of the Trump administration is that they want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act and put in their own system. They don't have actually a health care plan yet, but they're very eager to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And in fact, on November 10th, there's a hearing in the Supreme Court about the Affordable Care Act. They've been trying for 4 years. So that, in the middle of a pandemic, that is a huge issue. That's probably the number one issue right now for Joe Biden and the Democrats. In 2018, in our midterm elections, health care was the number one issue that pushed the Democrats to big gains in the midterm elections and the congressional elections. So I think, and the other issue, of course, which is related, in fact, a bigger issue than health care, is the handling of the virus in this country. And we have, as you know well in Europe, a large percentage of the deaths and cases in the world. And the United States, for a major industrial superpower, has had a very poor performance on the virus. And we could go over and over that. But Donald Trump, one of the reasons I think he's behind in the polls is because of his handling of the virus. So that is a big issue that Biden is going to talk about. The other issue, of course, there's a lot of them: immigration, race relations, the protests this summer over police brutality, guns, rights for gay people. So I do think Biden is talking about those, and we have written stories about that. But it is true that Donald Trump sort of, takes up a lot of the oxygen in the room.
Donald Trump is dominating the U.S. elections, and thinking of U.S. elections, both of the candidates are always scanned by the media, and investigative journalism has to focus on both because one is better than the other. Do you also find stains on the clothes of Joe Biden?
We have done pieces. We looked at there was a long piece about the allegations from a woman, Tara Reid, that he had sexually harassed her in the 80s, I believe. So we did a long piece on that. And there's been, a close look at Biden's climate plan. And a lot of Democrats think it's not enough. There's been a look back at how he handled himself in the Senate. So yes, the problem here is that no presidential candidate in history has ever quite told the falsehoods that Donald Trump has. I mean, it's kind of not a level playing field. It's like fact-checking both of them in a debate. You're going to have a lot more fact checks on Donald Trump's side than on the other side. We found this in the Democratic debate. So yes, we've had tough coverage of Democrats. Just ask the Obama White House. Ask the Clinton White House how we covered them. I mean, the press here generally has, the Washington Press Corps, the New York Times, generally has a pretty contentious relationship with whoever is in the White House. It's an adversarial relationship. Our job is not to make them look good. So but again, Donald Trump's, the relationship here and the coverage of Trump and our challenges are pretty much unprecedented, I would say, from previous presidents.
I want to talk to you about another topic, the social media platforms. It's not only since Donald Trump that media and the work of media really changed. The New York Times, you have an online format. You know that you find people on the internet, and the freedom of press and the freedom of speech, they are in the First Amendment of the US Constitution. That shows how important they are for your society. Thinking of the social media platforms, everybody is spreading what they believe is right or what they want to be right. So in June, the first time people really started to ban accounts, to block Twitter news of the US president because they were supposed to be to force violence. How do the Americans cope with that? Do they think our First Amendment is in danger, or do they say it comes way too late?
Well, we learned from 2016 what happened with all the disinformation that was out there on the social media platforms, on Facebook and on Twitter. And there has been a real move now by the social media companies themselves to sort of police themselves. I think many people would say it's a little too late, they're not doing enough, but they are taking down websites right and left that are just fake websites, that are Russian websites, and so they're much more aware of it than they were last time. Certainly, the New York Times is much more aware of it, and you see that Twitter is actually flagging the president's tweets. And what we have found, however, we had a story just last week that in 2016 the Russian trolls, the Russian bot, they had to make up their own postings and stuff. They're just taking Donald Trump's tweets, which are filled with disinformation about the failures of mail-in voting and the corrupt election that's about to occur. They're just taking those tweets. The intelligence agencies actually say that Donald Trump is doing the work of the Russian bots because they can just grab his posts and just amplify them out themselves. So I think the only difference now is that we're very, very much aware of this disinformation campaign. There's stories right and left about, again, websites being taken down. But bear in mind that these disinformation campaigns are amplifying what's already there, amplifying the divisions in American society between the right and the left. So it's not like so just be aware of that. I mean, we'll never know from 2016 how much that disinformation campaign made a difference in the outcome. We'll just never know. We do know certainly that they were on the side of Donald Trump, the Russian disinformation campaign. But we cover it as, we have our business staff covers it, our technology reporters cover it, and we try to stay on top of it.
I want to talk to you about the TV debate. There are several TV debates which are taking place. The first TV debate will be on Fox News, which is the pre-Donald Trump TV station. Do you also see that how the moderation is going to take place, or is it always fair?
Chris Wallace, who's the moderator for the Fox News debate, is a very tough interviewer. He's been very tough on Donald Trump. He's tough on everybody. I don't think no one is worried that Chris Wallace is going to somehow be easy on Donald Trump. Fox News is I'm not an expert on Fox News, but it's a big, complicated place. And a journalist like Chris Wallace, who's been a journalist forever, son of Mike Wallace, of CBS, of 60 Minutes, is known for asking very tough questions of both sides. So no one has raised, and certainly I'm not raising questions about Chris Wallace's bona fides here. It should be a tough debate. And by the way, his job is his job is to get the two of them debating, so that's what I'm sure he's hoping for tonight, is to have some back and forth between Biden and Trump and not as much from him.
How important are the TV debates in the US election?
This one's very important because, again, the vast majority of voters are decided, but there's some on the fence, and for them, it will be a big deal to see. I mean, the main thing is to see if, Trump is a tough man to debate because, again, he heralds falsehoods. He's very aggressive on stage. We certainly saw that with Hillary Clinton last time. And And, Biden's a decent debater, but, he's got to hold his own tonight. And, but, the president has lowered the bar so much with Biden. He's saying he's doddering, he's demanding that he take a drug test. And so I think if Biden is just able to stand up and get, he's lowered the bar so much that so even a mediocre performance from Biden at this point might be okay. Trump has really been pounding away at him. So we'll see.
Yeah, but TV debates are also something which are always reflected in the German television. From nowadays, sometimes you think you have the internet. Are people still watching?
Well, they can watch any way they want. They can watch on TV. They can watch on live TV. They can watch streaming on their laptops. They can watch, they can watch on websites. There's any number of ways you can watch a debate. So,
what do you think will be the headline on the 4th of November?
I can't tell you. I can tell you right now that based on the polls, Biden is pretty far ahead in the national poll, which doesn't matter as much as the state polls. There was a couple of polls today where Biden, there was 2 polls, one yesterday from us, the New York Times, another one this morning from the Washington Post. Biden is up now 9 points in Pennsylvania. That's a big deal because there's a couple of key battleground states, and Pennsylvania is one of them. So the national polls are interesting to give you a sense of the overall picture of the race, but the way the race is decided is now just a handful of states. It's decided in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, North Carolina, Arizona.
Do you think there will be a result on the 4th?
It could be a really, really tight race and Trump could win, or it could be a landslide and Biden could win. It's just hard. So much hinges on this handful of states. So it's just really hard to tell. I mean, last time, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, and she lost by about, a couple of 100,000 votes in 3 states. That's what it came down to. So our system is very complicated. So it's hard to tell.
Thank you, Mrs. Bumiller. A lot of things are unclear this time, but something is hopefully clear, that the US has a new president on the 4th of November.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.